When we talk about the word star today, it's very loose, isn't it? You know, when you think everybody's a presenter, a reality TV star, and in effect, when they get on your screen, they don't really do anything. They're not entertaining, they can't sing, dance, tell jokes. Am I right in thinking that? Is this an old codger thing? But when you watch old comedians and they truly made you laugh out loud, I mean, just literally spontaneously made you laugh, that was a comedian. Today, it's strange, isn't it? You have to look for the laugh. There's apparently a hidden meaning. They've always got something else to say, you know, and you kind of think, well, how dare you call yourself a comedian? Have you noticed also now they call themselves comedian presenter or presenter comedian? What are you? One or the other? Well, some might say not comedians. But over here behind me at the beautiful Frank Matcham designed Victoria Palace Theatre, literally there was a man in 1960 that simply broke royal protocol. Never been done since, never been done before that, and it was the very first time that this particular celebratory performance was broadcast live on the television network here in the United Kingdom. As ever, let me explain. Lovely to see you today. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll have a quick wave in this beautiful sunshine. Yes, this is the Victoria Palace Theatre, beautiful Frank Matcham Theatre, and of course home to so many hits during, of course, the war years and right up until the 60s. It was the home of the Crazy Gang, a wonderful collection of comedians who literally did so much fun for not just us, the great British public, of course, but the royal family too. The Queen Mother adored them. And let's not forget, this was the home for many, many years to the phenomenally successful TV show and stage show, The Black and White Minstrels, literally selling out twice nightly. That was the power of the show. And fascinating to think, isn't it, that, you know, people say, oh, you know, it's not PC now. But as a colleague told me, there were quite as many, you know, if not half and half, of coloured patrons in there too, who simply enjoyed seeing their songs of their era, their history, whatever you want to call it, background celebrated in such a dazzling professional way. Strange, isn't it, how things are now taking a turn for the worst. But way back in 1960 at the Royal Variety Performance, big stars were backstage here, including Liberace, who for the very first time actually wore a more formal attire, not the glittering suits he was known for. Don't know why, but that's interesting in itself, isn't it? Other big names, of course, included Jimmy Edwards, Lonnie Donegan, and the aforementioned Crazy Gang. But there was one man that literally stood out, all thanks to his dazzling performance over at a cabaret club where he'd been seen by the organisers of the Royal Variety Performance. Now, it's hard to imagine that even though Sammy Davis Jr. was a big star, you know, he hadn't really hit it big over here in the United Kingdom, which I find incredible. The man was just a dynamo of talent, no two ways about that. But on that night, over here behind me at the Victoria Palace, he literally wowed them. Quite simply, an 8-minute act literally had everybody stunned. He was brilliant, choreographed by a good friend of mine, Lionel Blair too, who they became lifelong friends. Lionel had so many stories to share with me about working with his best chum, as he called him, Sammy Davis, a dynamo of talent. But here's where it got really strange, because live on television, they hadn't really accounted for this. Sammy was such a phenomenon on that night, literally after 8 minutes sticking to time, which is rare in a royal variety show, that he took 8 curtain calls. 8. Now, you're not normally allowed to take a curtain call in front of royalty. Royalty is the be-all, you know, that's it. And Her Majesty the Queen was apparently literally having to be restrained from jumping up and saying, what a, you know, like literally coming out of a shell. Even too, she was wowed over. And as I say, curtain call after curtain call, in the end, Sammy had to say, stop, you know, this isn't about me, it's about the people we're raising money for. And literally, that night in November 1960 was a night when royal protocol was simply broken. Backstage, sadly, Sammy's outfit was several sizes too big, and his hat kept slipping down. And when it came to meeting Her Majesty the Queen, she did remark on the fact that his hat looked a little bit too big. And he said, look, I've actually filled it with newspaper, but it's still too big. And apparently they imparted tips alongside the Duke of Edinburgh about what one could do if that was the situation. Now, according to Lionel Blair, basically Sammy said he could not believe his luck at how well his act had gone, but to turn to the royal box and see the royal party literally clapping with absolute delight and excitement was enough for him. And he did apologise for breaking royal protocol, and Her Majesty the Queen said, with talent like that, it's absolutely fine. Neil Sean, Victoria Palace, London.